Right, and we are live. Good evening, hello everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. First of all, it's good to be back. I am first of all back in South Africa and back on the fan forum. The guys are going to be sort of holding down the fort. So Dan's been on a couple in the last couple of weeks, and welcome to a very special episode because I am joined by Mr. Dan Stoltz as usual, but I'm also joined by the Lions Rugby Head of Medical, Pamela Watts. So first of all, Dan, how are you doing?
Very, very good. I'm really excited about the conversation. Thank you so much.
And then Pamela, first of all, just thank you so much for giving us time. It's so exciting to be able to get somebody, especially as a Lions fan, to be able to get somebody out of the Lions and to get some more insight because, at the end of the day, we're also very casual fans. So any sort of insight we can get on what actually happens behind the scenes is fantastic. So thank you for giving up of your Thursday evening, and really looking forward to hearing what's going on. So before we get into before we start I wouldn't say grilling, but asking Pamela exactly what's happening behind the scenes and what will be happening in the BOKS squad and what sort of the roles within sort of the medical staff and stuff. It'll be amiss of me to not reflect a little bit about last weekend and the fact that in 2 days' time we've got a Springbok semi-final. And Dan, just very quickly before we sort of get into this weekend, just try and sum up the emotions of last weekend.
There was an energy deficit Monday and Tuesday this week. We really kicked into it on Wednesday just because every game was just emotional. I felt emotionally drained by the end of it, and in many ways I was glad that the Springboks played. Well, glad, but even more weighted because the Springboks played last, made for a long Sunday evening, but jeepers, couldn't have been more happy. Just an incredible display of what rugby, at the highest level can be. And I was just hoping when watching it that like someone who's never watched rugby before was watching those matches because that would convince them. Now they are hooked. If they see any of those games, just the emotion shown and the quality, it was incredible.
And then, Pam, it must have been a very interesting environment being in the Lions setup, arriving on Monday and getting the week going. First of all, where did you watch personally, and what's the vibe like been in camp on the Monday? I mean, it must really get the guys going watching something like that, and especially given that such a young squad of people dreaming to kind of be there in the future.
Yeah, I think I watched it at home with my family, which was a flippant roller coaster ride, a roller coaster of emotions, and couldn't get to sleep, obviously, after all of that. So I woke up Monday morning and was absolutely exhausted. And I think most of the squad was also exhausted because I think the training session on Monday was a little bit all over the show and a little bit flat, actually. I think they were still trying to get past the fact that most of them didn't sleep.
We can forgive them.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, the talk was very positive. I'm very excited and very, very motivating, actually. Very motivating for us coming into the URC start this weekend.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to be celebrating a Lions quarterfinal win and a semi-final and thing at the end of the next few months. So, Pamela, before we sort of get into exactly some of the recovery and some of the stuff that we really want to sort of get to know, can you just sort of give us a bit of an outline of your time with the Lions and sort of where it started and sort of how you ended up now in the position you're in?
Yeah, thanks. I started in 2015. I'd actually gone there to shadow for a master's degree that I had started in, I think, 2010. So I had gained a little bit of experience there. So I started with the under-19s and at the same time doing the long-term return to play players in the Super Rugby squad. And then, moved up from there into the under-21s, from under-21s up to Super Sport Challenge. And then in 2020, took over from a very great physio that started his own practice at the level of URC. Well, actually, it was still Super Rugby in a sense, but then COVID hit. So then we converted from Super Rugby to the URC, and then that was 2020, and then Head of Medical became an option in July this year. So that has been quite interesting and quite challenging, but also very exciting. It's a lot of admin that I didn't think was possible. A lot of managing and a lot of communication. of communicating going on there, but still doing the physio side as well. So I still will be pitch side with the URC, with the chief medical officer on the other side. So we work really closely together, the two of us. That's been my journey there.
Okay, so the head of medical, can you sort of give us a bit of a breakdown? What does a typical, what does the Lions, for example, medical staff look like overall?
So we have quite an extensive medical staff, actually, all the way down from the massage therapists, all the way through bios, physios, strength and conditioning coaches, doctors, and the chief medical doctor as well. So it's managing the medical center in essence. So myself and the chief medical officer work closely together with the lead or the head strength and conditioning coaches, or the strength and conditioning coach as well. And we work as a holistic team to get a player back onto the field as soon as we possibly can, and ensuring that they stay on the field for as long as possible. Yeah. So that's, and we all work together. I mean, the massage therapists play a really important role for us, especially in an injured player, soft tissue massage, getting the tissues quite pliable, and then we work up from there.
Okay. Yeah. And so, how big is that team? Because obviously, as you say,
so we have 3 permanent massage therapists. They come on the daily. Then we have a service agreement massage therapist that we call on if we need. So that's 3 + 1. Then we've got 4 physios. We've got a lead junior physio and a junior teams physio. Then we have myself and another senior physio. So that's 4 of us. Then we have 3 strength and conditioning coaches, lead strength and conditioning coach, and then a senior strength and conditioning coach, and then a strength and conditioning coach for the junior level.
Sorry, and then just to clarify, so you by senior and junior, so like for junior teams and then senior teams, hey?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So when I mean senior, I mean the URC, and when I mean junior, I mean the under 21s, under 19s.
Just so everybody understand. Yeah.
And and then we have chief medical officer with the URC team, and then a sports physician for the under 21s and the Currie Cup.
And you are overseeing all of this for essentially the Lions Rugby Union, correct?
Yeah, I work on the same band level as the chief medical officer and the strength and conditioning coach. So we sort of make decisions together, the 3 of us, and then work through and then we have 2 bios. Sorry, I forgot about the biokineticists. We have 2 bios that come in every day, and so I oversee them in the medical center with the massage therapists and the physios. Yeah.
As someone who actually did an undergrad in biokinetics, please don't forget about us.
Sorry, I'll apologize tomorrow.
But I'm interested, that type of setup, is that typical for all clubs, and does that get any bigger or smaller per different unions or at a national level, or is it typically a very replicated framework?
Yeah, I think in South Africa it's quite a replicated framework. It's just the size that matters, or the size that differs, sorry. You usually have your strength and conditioning coach, your physios, your doctors, and your bios, with your massage therapists. Overseas, I think the structure is a little bit bigger. However, they don't have the bios. The physios and the strength and conditioning coaches work quite closely together. And as I understand it, they don't always have a permanent doctor on site, like we do in South Africa. Most of us have the permanent doctor on site. They will have doctors that come in maybe on a daily basis or when needed, or they're called upon. Yeah, but I think it's the size here that differs. I think the top premier clubs have the more robust structure, and the smaller unions usually have at least 1 physio, and then they may then go and send I do some of them. I know that they send off to a bio off campus, or the doctor down the road that come in. Yeah, which I think is quite difficult. I think I'm very privileged to be working around a holistic team with so many people, which is actually really, really nice. But having one individual, I think, can be quite difficult for someone.
For sure.
Yeah. It's nice to sort of bounce ideas across from everybody and have all these different sort of perspectives, because obviously bios will look at something compared to a physio, compared to strength and conditioning and stuff. It's all sort of nice brain structure.
Yeah. And listen, we also have our arguments. You have to. You have to have your arguments. It makes for a very interesting day.
And then you've got pressures coming from all those different directions. Now you're integrating the actual player who it is, and the coach, and the match that's happening this weekend. And
yes,
if something happens again, the buck stops at you to have made the correct decision. So I can imagine there's a lot of heated discussions surrounding that, and even now just around the World Cup. Such a hot topic. I can only imagine you have great insight into what those conversations are like.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, what I actually wanted to ask you, Dan mentioned the coach. So for example, somebody like Ivan, who's got a bit of a strength and conditioning sort of background, a bit similar to sort of Jacques Nielba as well, who had that sort of medical background before just being sort of the coach. How much has that sort of helped with being able to understand your sort of position, stuff like that? Because I think obviously some coaches will come through and they can hear you say, listen, this player can't play for this reason or for this reason, or they're not fit enough for this reason, but they might not be able to understand. How much is it easier working with someone who's got that sort of background to be able to understand where you're coming from and not sort of be speaking to the layman all the time type thing?
I think it can be yes and no. It can be easier and it can be more challenging because you can't sort of get something past him because he knows, he knows the structure. He was in the structure for so many years and he ran that system, So to his credit, we had a player that we were returning back to play, and we had put him on the field, and we came off, and he had actually challenged us on his biomechanics and his movement, and said he picked up something on that player. And we actually we all looked at it, and we pulled him from his return to play, and we pulled him off the field, and we got him off feet until we could correct that. He was battling with deceleration in different planes of movement, and Ivan actually picked it up more than we did. Yeah. So in that aspect, yes.
Again, that's the whole brain trust.
Yeah. And it's I think it's quite nice that we can have those conversations, that we can challenge each other and not take it personally and not have an ego, and actually turn around and say, sure, you know what, thank you very much. You're the one that picked that up, and we could hopefully get this guy back into play as soon as possible. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. And then Pam, just sort of the team environment. I mean, as somebody who's sort of been around the box quite a lot, and sort of the hallmarks of the entire team is how close they are as a squad, and it's more than just sort of the player relationship and the player and the coaches. That the entire sort of management team. Can you sort of give us a bit of insight? What is the environment like between coaches, your medical staff, your support staff, your managers, your players, and stuff like that? How does that whole sort of environment sort of work? Are there sort of, let's say, divisions, but is it sort of, do people sort of keep to themselves type thing, or is it just generally quite mixed up?
I think it depends on the individuals that are within the coaching staff and within the different departments. I think if you are an individual that is open to communication and constructive feedback and criticism, I think then the communication channels are really good, and I think they flow quite nicely and quite easily. If you have individuals that take a lot of things personally, or like give you a bit of backlash or things like that, then it becomes really difficult, because as coaches and medical staff, you really have to be communicating 100% all the time. You don't always have to be on the same page, in a sense of you don't always have to agree with each other, but they have to be close. I mean, I just the one little snippet I helped when the BOKS went to go and play at Twickenham. There was a remaining squad left behind, and a couple of us went to go and help, and we were on the bus to St. John's, and I just sat on the bus.
The match this year.
Yeah, it was. So the remaining.
Okay, yeah.
So they went to play at Twickenham, and there was a remaining squad that stayed behind before they left. Yes. And there were a couple of us that went and helped out, because obviously Renee and Anne were had gone overseas already. And I sat on the bus, and they all got on the bus, and there's no seating protocol. You can sit wherever you want. And I was just observing, and you had the logistic manager sitting in front with Russie, with a massage therapist chatting to the bus driver. And it was like a 15-minute journey. And they were just, it was phenomenal to see, actually. You have this perception that a head coach stays in his box and he doesn't really communicate well. Maybe some people have that, and it was really interesting to see that they were all communicating, no matter where you were. It was the water boy, or if it was the logistics manager, or if it was the massage therapist, the physio, or the doctor. They were all sharing a joke. I think it must have been something that had happened, and it was incredible to see. So I thought that dynamic was they've created, I think, something special within the environment.
And a large reflection of, general working environments within the professional world, right? It lends itself very similarly when you see these big figures. That is Russie, everyone knows his name. He's the spoken about person. He's the guy almost with the target on his back. So you're never quite sure what that leader is like. Is there restricted access? Are there, only these people can speak to him? And what we hear him preach is this, narrative of, no, everyone's equal and no one's above that. So, hearing these examples and seeing them in such, small use cases like a team bus and a 15-minute journey, but those echo into the whole belief of a team and, what they really stand for.
100%. Yeah, I think what he preaches is actually sort of what you see. Yeah. It was amazing.
Right, so Pam, to get into the nitty-gritty, right? So BOKS have got a semi-final on Saturday. Can you sort of talk us through it a little bit? Because every single press conference I've been to now is they talk about, because often you go into sort of the Monday, Tuesday, and they just talk about we had a really good recovery day yesterday, and they like often talk about how impressed they are with players and how well they're doing their recovery. What does a day of recovery and the next couple of days of recovery looks like? Because obviously you can't just play a match and the next day you're out training and stuff like that. And also, during the week, what do some of the sessions look like? How many are sort of high intensity, or how many involve contact, how many don't involve contact? Can you sort of give us an idea of what like a Sunday to Saturday turnaround, for example, could look like?
Yeah. So obviously mine is going to be a bit Lions biased here, but I'm sure it's very similar. We follow very similar protocols to the Springboks. So after a Saturday game, you usually have a really good meal. So your nutrition is 100% important. Our dietitian would advocate that. That's one of your top recovery tools, nutrition. So the dietitian would have gotten out their meal plan for that evening, and probably the morning, or actually the morning after and the week after as well. And they will eat according to what the dietitian has required. Then not only that, is also sleep is really important. So those are our top two recovery tools that they need to adhere to. We have a 100-point system, and so each recovery tool creates you generate a point system. So you have to tick off up to 100 points when you come in on that Monday. So your typical Sunday could be your sleep and your eating. You could have a lie-in. You can have a pool session. I'm sure on camp at the Springboks they would have a recovery pool session, or a foam rolling session, or a mobility session. They would have massage rubs as well, and they'll just have a complete chill out day. Or maybe a social, you also get points for social, but not a hectic social day. Then the Monday becomes a bit of a flush. So you'll have your review from the game, so sort of like a chilled morning. We do a recovery scoring in the morning, so they have to do a couple of tests that we then check to make sure that their scores are all okay. If we don't pick up anything, so they'll do a groin squeeze test to see that they are still on their baseline. Or above, and they haven't dropped, so we don't, if we do that, we can flag them.
Yes.
On tour, that's a little bit more difficult, so they might sort of modify that a little bit.
As a result of the equipment available.
Yeah, absolutely. And then your review session, your massage sessions on Monday morning, and your physio's treatments that you probably need to start getting sort of rid of a bit of the niggles. And then your field session is a lighter field session on that Monday. We call it a tacky session. So in their tackies, they're doing the walkthrough. Yeah, and then as the week goes on, they sort of build up the intensity and the contact Tuesday, Wednesday through the week. And then your captain's day is sort of more of a chilled session. So you hit your field session harder on that Wednesday, have a off day, Thursday, recovery day again, foam rolling, massage, rest, recovery, all that, ice baths, contrast baths, and captain's Friday, and then ready for the game on Saturday. We also look at loads as well, the running loads and what you've achieved that week, and then pull people. The strength and conditioning coaches will look at that and then monitor and manage their loads as they go.
And we've just got a comment from Safri Kiwi saying, "Golf for recovery, yes, please." I think, and you mentioned that there's the biggest is the a big part of it is food and sleep. At the end of the day, these they are professionals, yes, but also grown-ups, and it can be difficult, I'm sure, particularly maybe in younger age groups, to control and actually understand what is happening on these off days. Are they following what is expected of them? Are they eating the right things? How do you get insight into that while they aren't eating in a team cafeteria? But is there are they wearing particular smartwatches? What is that insight? And can you maybe give a little follow on about can you see that separation of, can you make that prediction of who's going to make it based on how people follow these types of instructions and ways of recovery?
So I think to answer your first question, I think we possibly, I might get into trouble for saying this, but in South Africa, I think our nutrition and our dietary needs could be improved. I think as unions, we don't have a cafeteria, or we don't get our food made for us. You have to rely on the player to get he has got his diet plan or his eating plan, and they do have a dietary session every Monday with a dietitian. So that's how we keep track of it. But it's only for a short period of time. He has to be responsible for the rest of the time that he has been given. So so that is very difficult. I know overseas they're very good at that. They do have a cafeteria. They do have people that cook for them. They come in and they have all their meals there.
Yeah.
How we've tried to get around it is we at the moment we have got out the cereals and our supplements and smoothie makers. So we are trying to get that into the union, and our strength and conditioning coach has been amazing in doing that. And then at lunchtime they pay every month for a monthly lunch meal that comes in, to try and keep track a little bit.
They still have to pay. Hey, you might be playing for the Springboks, but you're going to pay for lunch.
You have to pay for lunch.
Well, that's why our Springboks are grounded.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
There we go.
And then will the player make it? Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on their off-field professionalism, I think, as well. Yeah, you can see some players that definitely have something in them. I think that determination, that work ethic, absolute work ethic. I mean, they'll die for you on the field. Whether that player becomes a Springbok, I think also luck has to do with it. Are they injury free? Do they suffer from a lot of injuries? That's a hard
I love that idea of luck. I think people don't give that enough attention. We've had some of the best players ever who've had injuries and haven't. Then we've got some people as well who might not be, in the top 2 or 3 best players performing at the time, but there's suddenly a bit of an injury crisis, in inverted commas. They get the chance, they take the chance, all of a sudden they become undroppable. So I think that element of luck is a very interesting one.
Yes, definitely. We always say you've been granted this opportunity, you take it.
And are there certain players that sort of almost kind of arrive, and within the first month you kind of sit back going, here's a player, the way they conduct themselves, the way they train, the way they perform. Are there certain individuals where you go, yeah, that kid's really special?
Yes, yeah. I definitely. I don't think I can name any. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to be honest.
Is it quite easy to sort of pick that up?
I think for a player who is definitely going to make it, yes. Yeah, that's a very good question. I was going to say yes. I think it is very easy to pick it up, but then some time out of the blue, a player will just have a bad season one season, the next season they turn around and then they're on point. Yeah,
I think that changes
yeah.
that motivation, because obviously, as you said, there's the on-field talent and professionalism, but then how do you do that 24 hours a day, right? Are you following this goal and dream, and as you said, there's a lot of luck involved, but you got to put yourself in the right position. I always think of someone like Jesse Creel, who's just always seems to be he's never injured. He always seems to be in incredible form, and he's been sitting on the wings for so long, waiting for this opportunity, and he's coming to this World Cup, and he is raining.
He's grabbed it.
Time.
Yes.
One of the most physical on the pitch, and yet still able to, go back again. And a lot of it's motivation, obviously, but giving yourself that opportunity to come.
Yeah. It's interesting because you kind of also look at also what sacrifices they've made along the way to sort of to get there, I think, and was it worth it? And I think for him, absolutely at the moment, yes, definitely, because he's flying.
Yeah, and then perhaps just going into, so for example, there's been a lot of sort of graphs about sort of workload management during the World Cup, and Rassi, even I think on Tuesday, even sort of insinuated that some teams had potentially gotten it wrong with maybe playing players too much. The BOKS have done it very well in terms of spreading the workload. They've actually got the fewest average minutes per sort of player. How much is that sort of planned? And interestingly enough, obviously internationally is a bit different. Teams like the Lions, for example, when you get injuries and player death, obviously, what you'd like to do and what you can do is very different. But how much of a say do the medical staff have in terms of, you've got a crunch game this weekend and you're sitting there saying, the coach is saying, I have to play this player, and you're saying, okay, but he's well over his workload, he shouldn't be playing. How do you sort of get that balance right, and how much of a say do the medical staff have when they can just put up and say he's played too much rugby, you have to rest him type thing? How do you get that balance right?
I think the best way to answer that is quite simple, as well, I feel is risk versus reward. So are you willing to risk that player to get the greatest reward that you can get? So if it's a semi-final, if we're able to risk him and it's a really important game, the reward is massive. If it's a preseason game, then you're not going to risk that player as much. So, sorry, you were going to say something.
No, that's super interesting, and I mean, off the back of unlikely recoveries made, not just from Sia in he was at least given a bit of a runway, but was incredibly quick in that. But more specifically, Pollard and Lukhanyo both real question marks and weren't picked for the squad, so actually relied on an injury happening for them to come back in. They couldn't just integrate as we wished. Do you see that as one of those examples where it is the reward is big enough? If they, what is the assessment going into that, and do you think that they could play 80 minutes of rugby if need be, and at what level?
That's a difficult question to answer, not being sort of privy completely into the system. But I think with Sia, that's a hot topic to debate. I'm not 100% sure if he had an ACL repair or reconstruction. The reconstruction time frame that we use is 9 months, and his obviously was 4, which is incredible. So you're sort of holding your breath in the first game, that he played, just to say, oh goodness, I hope he gets okay. But I think that maybe could have been a risk versus reward in a sense, because he's such a great leader. He's such a great influence on the field and within play. I think that could be it. I mean, I think you'd probably have to ask Jerome and Renee exactly the sort of thoughts process behind it. But he looks good, doesn't he?
I mean, that was the biggest thing. That first game looked like he'd never been away.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe he took him. I think they took him off after 45 minutes in this previous game. I was like, but why? He's looking so good. With Pollard and Lukanya, I think I don't think they were just ready yet. I just think they had a few more boxes to tick with their return to play. We follow quite a stringent return to play, and I think when we were with them on their way off to Twickenham, they were still completing that return to play protocol. So I just don't think they had ticked all those boxes just yet. So I think that was a little bit sort of more risky at the time. But they're both there now. The cards fell into their favor at the moment.
You talk about that sort of risk and reward, and an interesting example for me is always Alan Jones coming into that Lions series a couple of years ago, where their basic insinuation was there were a couple of shortcuts in inverted commas that they took, which they probably wouldn't have taken if he was younger. Basically, this was his last Lions tour, and he was willing to take that risk. Does that ever sort of come into it? Where you've got a player who's maybe nearing the end of his career, and they're sitting there saying, "Listen, I've got one more year left or whatever, that this is the final I have to play." And can you afford to be a little bit, I wouldn't say less cautious, but take more risks with sort of players at the back end of their career? Also might know their body a bit better, for example, compared to obviously a 21-year-old player who's just wants to play, is over eager, and you're sitting there thinking, but we want to get you playing for another 10, 12 years.
Yes, 100%. Yes. I think the older players definitely know their bodies more, and they know what they can. They can be honest with themselves, and they can be honest with us, and they can be honest with the coaches as well. And I think a lot of them are probably more willing to risk themselves in a bigger game, because they know it's their last season, it's their twilight of their career. They want to go out with a bang. We've got a few legends with us at the moment who are quite prepared to throw themselves into the mix, just purely because they want to perform.
Yeah. The last throw of the dice for a lot of them. They if it's a career-ending injury, it was going to end, in any case. I think it's going to be interesting.
Why not risk that?
Yeah. For sure.
And then on the flip side, younger players. Now we've just seen Henk van Wyk, who we're very much looking forward to seeing his return, this season. How, and somebody asked earlier, from a mental perspective, how difficult is working with especially younger players who I think, he literally SAA call up last year, breakout season, he's the talk of the town, and then does it and his knee, and it's the end of the season type thing. How difficult it is, and sort of how do you support younger players, not only just from a physical perspective, from a mental perspective, to sit there saying, listen, people have done this, they've come back, they've gotten them back, and how do you sort of keep them motivated for that time when they're watching somebody else play in the jersey that they wanted, somebody else get that opportunity that they could have had if they were on the field? How do you guys get that? How do you manage that?
It's difficult, really difficult. I'm not going to lie. It was a long road with Henku, and he'll gladly put up his hand and said, I think in the beginning there was a lot of struggles that he went through, exactly that. And now this is on a general basis. You get an injury, and it's you sort of go through those steps, it's like, oh my goodness, what has just happened? And then you go through all the sort of stages of grief, and denial, and then anger, and then sadness, exactly that. So in pre-season, it's interesting, you see players that have an injury, and they're okay because it's pre-season. It's when they start seeing their colleagues and their friends, like you said, playing in a particular jersey or their jersey or things like that, then it becomes very difficult. So as physios, our superpower is getting to know the player quite intricately and quite you go through that emotional journey with them. I've always advocated that any professional rugby player must go and see a psychologist, because we do fulfill some role in that, but it's not our scope of practice. So they should be seeing a psychologist just to get them through exactly that, and especially if it's a long-term injury like an ACL or a knee.
I was actually going to touch on that, and so based of that, are there any union setups or professional setups that integrate the sports team sports psychologist into the mix? or if it's external, is that generally someone, let's say Henke, for example, if he did have a sports psychologist, would you try to work hand in hand with that person? And, have you seen when that mental attitude has been able to shape the, comeback time from injury to back on the pitch?
Yeah, definitely. Pre-COVID, we used to have a psychologist, Trevor Hall, that was with us in-house, and it was phenomenal. He used to run an ACL group on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and you could see the change in the players, sort of the emotional support. It was someone that who wasn't associated with the brand, that they could just speak freely with, and he still sees some of our players. So after COVID, sort of things sort of fell apart, but he still sees some of our players on an external basis. It's a little bit more difficult to then integrate between the physios and the psychologists then, but when they're in-house, I think you again also have to work really well together, especially knowing, not necessarily knowing the intricate details, because I think that's between the psychologist and the player. That
Right.
doesn't, you don't need to know exactly that, but I think you kind of need to know sort of maybe the coping mechanisms, how to spur them on, how to calm them down, how to lift them up, how rational or irrational they can become, and we can help them in that aspect. Yeah, it's vital, absolutely vital. And my players actually have a psychologist that they also make available to the players as well. So lots of players use them as well.
That is a general support structure, not just, I guess, from, you typically see them in fighting for kind of salaries and a lot of those minimums, but a lot of it, particularly now, is how are we making sure that these athletes are coping while in their profession, but also then set up afterwards, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think also if we look at the psychology behind it, I think the off-field support is really important. The family support, the friend support, so that's sort of structures are also. I think some of the families are now with the BOKS in France as well.
Yes, all of them are.
I think that's I think that's brilliant, because you've been away for so long. You sort of need some of that to get you through. Yeah, some normality with your kids, and so you can play. Yeah.
So John Klein was speaking about that, because obviously he was in 2019 with Ireland. He said that it's a big difference to having his family there, and that's been a massive part with the BOKS, is that they're also family driven. I mean, I've been there in BOK camp, and I always say Friday is phenomenal, because I usually go to the captain's press conference, and you're usually working the team hotel, and you sit there as all the families arrive, and you just see all the players, and they're playing with their kids, and they're just sitting with their wives. And it's the most relaxed environment ever, and you can just see players who are about to go play one of the biggest games of their life the next day, just completely switched off, and being able to
that's the thing.
themselves from that.
100%. I think you could then completely switch off, and I think that's really important. Just to get away from all the hype. They just kind of ground you a bit, to make you a bit humble.
Yeah, if you even Etzebeth, you can't keep up this facade of world dominator for 19 weeks together. He's also got a very kind and loving side to him, and I guess
he is the nicest person. I thought when I was there, I thought he was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. He's not just mean man that you see on the field.
It's funny how some of the big players really are. I mean, Archie Snyman as well is very relaxed and good fun.
So chilled. Yeah, so chilled. But on the field,
I hope the English aren't watching.
Actually, you're right. No, they're very mean.
Yeah,
they're very mean.
And then Pam, just to sort of stick on the sort of mental thing and maybe sort of the physical part. Concussions, obviously, a big topic of discussion, and there was a horrendously stupid question posed to Rassie about teams potentially, using the HIA protocol to swap players in and out and stuff like that. I think it's an area that people are very in the dark about in terms of what an HIA is, what the protocol is, and who makes the final call and stuff like that. Can you give us a bit of insight? Player goes down, head contact. What happens between that moment and if they get back onto the field, or if they don't get back onto the field?
Okay, so I think just to go back to doing that as a strategy, you cannot do that as a strategy to change players. I think that's crazy. So basically, you have 3 HIAs: HIA 1, 2, and 3. You have an HIA 1 that is divided into 4 components. The one being a criteria 1, so he gets a clash on his head. And has he sustained a criteria 1 symptom, being loss of consciousness, definitely passed out? Is he dazed and confused? Is he walking? Is he stumbling around? Is he slow to get up? So there's nothing suspicious about that. You don't suspect anything. You know for definite that he is concussed or a head injury. That's criteria 1. Then not only that is that there's a video review process as well on the side of the field with a match day doctor. There's also a clinical evaluation with the doctor as well. And then you go through all of those steps,
And is that match day doctor a neutral, or is that the Lions doctors doing that and the BOKS doctor?
No, he's a neutral. So we have the physio, so we have the physio on the one side, the team doctor on the other side with the match day doctor, and he is this sort of he's the neutral guy. So those are the 4 criterias, or the 4 steps. So if it's a criteria 1, he's removed completely, and he's not allowed to come back onto the field. If you suspect that he may have a concussion, like you're not actually quite sure, then he is taken off for an HI. So then he's taken off for concussion, the first one. Yeah. If you suspect that he may have concussion, then he is then taken off for an HIA 1. Now that is then completed by the match day doctor, not the team doctor, because the team doctor will have a particular bias, I assume, to that. So then they go and they do the assessment and all of that in the review. That is a 12 minutes. 12 minutes. You can't get back. Even if you're symptom free, you cannot get back. If you pass that, you cannot get back within 12 minutes. You have to sit out for that 12-minute period. If obviously you're suspected and you fail that HIA 1, then you can't come back to that field. Then that replacement becomes a permanent replacement. Yeah. Then what happens? So let's say he failed his HIA 1. He then the game finishes. He has to complete a HIA 2 within 3 hours. Of the game completion. Now that HIA 2 is an early concussion tool. So remember, concussion doesn't always come, or the symptoms don't always come straight away. You then have, they may come later. So your HIA 2 then picks up an early concussion. Then you have the HIA 3 that has to be done within 36 to 48 hours post-game. So that usually happens for us, usually on the Monday morning. And then that would pick up or disregard a late concussion. So it's quite a strict head injury or concussion protocol. And then what's interesting, so if then there's now a game within 7 to 10 days usually, and that player had a confirmed concussion, but he's asymptomatic, you're not allowed to put that player onto the field unless he goes to see an independent concussion specialist, so a consultant, yeah. So we are not allowed to put that player on the field. He has to go and see someone independently. Yeah. So it's really evolved over the last, over the last few years, the concussion protocol. Yeah. And
those sort of tests, I mean, it's been a long time since I played rugby, but back in school we used to have to do like baseline tests as a thing. Is it those sort of things where you do a baseline, then you go and do those in the tests and sort of see how are those sort of some of the sort of tests that are doing? What do sort of the tests look like?
Yes, so everything in the beginning is computerized, and you do your baseline testing. So every player, and I think from school now still, that you have to do it. You have a baseline concussion test, and also there's now loads of studies. So there's a large base of normative data out there. So you can't remember. I think back in the day you could try and cheat the system, and you could try and fail that baseline concussion test. So when you redid the concussion test, you look smarter. But you can't do that. You can't do that anymore because there's so much normative data. So it's computer based on an iPad. The doctor will sit there in a SCAT5 sheet. You have components. You have a memory. You have a balance. You have numerical. You have to recite various words forwards and backwards and things like that. And then they score that. It's sent straight through to the database with all the results, and then it comes back to say whether he's sharp or not sharp.
So not quite just what's your date of birth and what's your dog's name type thing.
No, not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah.
It's quite extensive. Yeah, it's really I think it's really changed any problems that happen later on.
And Pam, it's obviously very an interesting one for you. We've seen a lot of controversy around some of the red cards and fluctuations between maybe some of the decisions made that were deemed to be red versus some others. And obviously, you're not by any means in charge of the refereeing board, but where do you see that happy middle ground being, as I'm sure you are, a rugby fan as well, and you don't want to see complete contact taken out of the game, but we never want to see a circumstance where players are leaving, retiring, and suffering much worse, kind of brain damage down the road. Where is that happy medium between those, and where do you think World Rugby is sitting in that at the moment, and how the HIAs have been employed, and just general decision making by the referees and in how they've been instructed by World Rugby?
No, I don't want to be controversial because I love the fact that it's a collision sport, and that's why we watch rugby. So sometimes, I'm not going to lie, it frustrates me to see someone who gets a red card, and for me it looks like an accidental head knock, but the rules say that it's a head knock and it's a red card. I think that frustrates me as a rugby fan. If maybe I can compartmentalize myself in that, because I think as a rugby fan, a lot of people are going, but back in the day we could do this and we could do that, and we just pummeled each other, we rucked over, we mauled, we could fucking get our studs in and we can do all of that sort of stuff, but then as a medical person, I can then go, oof, yes, that's really hectic. I can understand why we're bringing in that rule, just to prevent that further, the further problems later on in life. But when I also kind of question myself, and maybe this is where I'm being controversial, when does it stop? When do we get it, when we get to enough? How much more do we want to change if we don't want to completely change the game of what rugby actually is? So that's what I struggle with a little bit, actually. I might get into trouble for that, I don't know.
But as a medical staff, are you sitting there, when you guys watch the game, how much is it, do you pick up and place on sort of aspects that you're sitting there thinking, like when they bring in rule changes and all of a sudden, maybe there's like certain injuries maybe aren't as prevalent or whatever, or if there is a change in sort of the amount of concussion, stuff like that. Have you noticed is there a point where sometimes there might be a rule change, or there might be, even though the team plays a bit differently, and all of a sudden there's a bit of a difference from a player welfare point of view? Have you seen those kind of situations before?
Yeah, we in our URC stats that came out last year, our concussion rate was, so the year before, so our concussion rate was really high. I think we were top out of the 16 of the URC, whereas last year we were right, we were right down at the bottom. Our concussion rate had really changed from being the worst to the best. And I think we some of the coaches changed some of their tackle techniques or how they carry the ball and things like that. So yes, we did notice that a lot. So yes, I think that does help or can change injury stats as well. Yeah. Okay.
Brilliant. Well, Pam, to be honest, I could talk about this all night. So we're not going to, because I think there's so much to talk about. But I think that's, especially in the HIA program, I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And I think that clarifies a lot of it, because it has obviously been one of the biggest talking points of the World Cup is the red cards and how when players go back and when players don't go back and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't realize that there were a different stage and stuff. So thank you so much for all the insights.
You're welcome. Now I was about to say also there's also a graded return to play as well, post concussion. So they have to go through a whole graded return before they can get back onto the field. So it's quite a elaborate.
And does that depend on like sort of, I don't know, so the level of concussed that they are, or is it sort of like regardless of the extent of the injury, it's the same sort of return to play type thing? It's
well, remember I said if they were asymptomatic, they go and see the independent guy, and if they see the independent guy and he says that's great, then they go straight back into the field. But if they are concussed, they're out for 12 days, and they have to go through stage 1 or day 1, 2, 3, 4, and that operates. And doesn't matter how sort of concussed you actually are, you can't really. There's no real scale, I guess.
Exactly,
but there's a whole index, the inventory. There's a headache scale. There's a headache dizziness inventory, and all that sort of stuff. But so you do get lots of symptoms, I guess, in that, and you have to be symptomatic. I mean, you have to be asymptomatic to be able to complete that HIA3, and then you can start your return to play. And then that's a light jog for 20 minutes, and then you don't get symptoms after that. Then you can progress the next day. Only 24 hours. You can then go to a gym program, and only after that 24 hours you move on to something else. So
it's essentially
it's
like
really
a tick box
extensive
exercise. You can there are it's a bit like with the box mentioned that there are certain targets you have to meet these, whether it takes you 20 days, 30 days. You have to meet these, and you will not play until you do.
Absolutely. And if you get symptoms on day 2, but you didn't get symptoms back on day 1, then you go back to day 1, and then you have to start it again.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it can take a very long time, and then it's a very long time. It becomes a bit more complex, a little bit more of a complex concussion, and that's sort of post-concussion syndrome. That's a talk for another day, I think. But
Cool. Well, I think we're going to have another day based on this. I think there's so many more questions that a lot of people were asking. So, Pam, we won't take up any more of your time. Thank you very much. You've got a URC finalist in the Stormers to beat this weekend.
Yes.
So hopefully the preparation as well. I'm looking forward to getting to Ayers Park and seeing the Lions this weekend. Just very quickly,
are you going to be there?
I won't be there this weekend, but I'm hoping to get. I actually haven't been to the park since COVID because I've started doing all the working and stuff like that. So it's my goal this year is to get there before the end of the year.
Okay, come say hi. Come say hi. Tell me that you come in, and I'll organize something.
All right, brilliant.
Yeah.
In the HIA room.
Yes, you can see what happens behind scenes.
HIA.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll make sure you
to do an HIA test.
Yeah.
Those HIAs were hard at school. I remember doing those baselines and not knowing what was going on, and that was when I
think you should do one now because I can't even do them now either. So they've got even harder.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then, Pam, just very quickly, do you run your own practice and stuff like that, or is it just?
I don't. I used to. It's just got too much, so I don't. Yeah, I'm full time there at the Lions. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, then perfect. Right. So then everybody, when we see Henker make his return, then thank you for all the work you put on him, and please keep our Lions safe because we need to see a lot more of them at the World Cup in 2027. And then Dan, thanks for joining us. To everybody else, don't go away. We're going to hand over to Chris and Wes. So they're going to be taking you guys through this weekend's fixtures. Chris is going to talk about the fact that the Stormers are going to lose the Lions. Wes is going to give us a bit of analysis on where England are going to go wrong this weekend. And we'll then obviously be live over the weekend. So Dan, thank you very much. Pam, thank you again. Have a fantastic evening further.
Thank you.
All the best
thank you, you two guys.
And we will see you guys all very, very soon.
Cheers.
lads.
TV.
I'm happy to hand over to you guys very, very soon. I just wanted to just come on here and just remind Chris that he's only going to be having one team of his win on Saturday, and that we got the insight from Pamela, and I've heard some team news, and you're a long day on Saturday, long day.
Yeah. Sure, you guys. It's about time you guys win. So I mean, I'm happy for you guys to crack into the top 8.
Listen, we're going all the way. It's going to be a block Lions double this season.
Yeah, well, no, it'll be okay. It's okay if we meet in the final and you can have another heartbreak final. Yes, Steve. We'll do it in Cape Town where people come to watch it, so it'll be good.
Come to the park. We'll get Wes down from the Delta. We'll get you down from the UK. We'll do a little Forever Sports meetup at good old Ellis. Yeah. Get a Hillbrow afterwards for the jaw.
No, I know we will speak to it. I know, we'll do a review, but yeah, I think you get your best chance. I think you guys boys are gonna have to beat the Mighty Stormers. It'll be this.
No money, no party. No baby, no party. Right, gentlemen, I'm not going to take any more of your show. Do enjoy it. And
cool. Scott's not joining us. Yeah, he's off.
No, he's off. I'm also off. I'm going to go and continue unpacking.
Yeah, you must be buggered there.
Yeah, no, it's been a long day. It's a long flight. People don't understand that, if you lean back on your chair and you can't go any further, it's because somebody's knees are there, and people just don't quite understand that. So it's been a long night, and I'm going to go and listen to some horrendous predictions coming out of you guys on the TV. So, chaps, enjoy it.
Yeah, everybody in the comments. Put us on silent, and you can have a good sleep.
No. So everybody in the comments, please go start abusing the tune. I'll get your questions in, and I will see everybody tomorrow on the watch along. And I believe we might even be seeing Wes tomorrow night on the pre-show, if I'm not mistaken, or not.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I'm around.
Well, there we go. Busy winning and dealing here. Gentlemen, enjoy it, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, cheers, Steve. Hello, Wes. How are you doing, man? Yeah, good. I'm still buzzing. I won't lie, I'm still buzzing from the weekend. I can't. I still can't believe what we witnessed, especially Saturday's game, the Irish-New Zealand game. I thought that was. Yeah, like we'd get that repeat of that. We knew our game could have been a good one, but then our game, and yes, I must say I've been negative about rugby. I had a few things to say about the BOKS, and now I'm feeling like the 16-year-old Chris that loved rugby and going to Newlands and just reinvigorated.
Chris, this is something that's been, I think, the biggest challenge for the BOKS and probably New Zealand as well. Is exactly this is overcoming this feeling that we're feeling. I mean, imagine we're feeling this way now. So can you imagine how the BOKS and the All Blacks are feeling? This elation, excitement, this absolute, like they're so pumped, but they have to come back down and they've got to reset and they've got to do it again and find that hunger because everyone points to England in 2019 against the All Blacks playing their final in that game, and it's a real thing. And both these teams, you feel like New Zealand, and I say this lightly, and I hate the word should. I hate the word should when it comes to sports, and I hate the word should when it comes to World Cups. But New Zealand should beat Argentina, and South Africa should beat England. But it's that sort of mindset that potentially that if they've not come down and they've got themselves back up to the right levels, could be in for a very rude awakening.
Well, let's Argentina, and I think a lot of us, I think you there, maybe you disappeared. Yeah, a lot of us had Welsh. We thought, Gatton, I think if I can remember, you were a bit British on Argentina, maybe. I can't remember, I think. I thought Wales are building, and that was pretty impressive performance by Argentina. I don't want to say momentum changed with paper, and because I was watching the game with friends, and we straight away went, that's good for Arge, and they did kind of shift from there because Wales got that early brilliant try and then they went, but no, they deserve to go through in the end, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I was sort of backing the Welsh the whole time up until the game. Even in the game, I thought, it's tight, but if there's one team that should be able to kind of see it out, it would be the Welsh, the historically more successful team. And fair play to the RGs. They said, well, that, we're gonna we're gonna. So no, I think they deserved winners in the end. It's a shame for for players in that team. Your George Norths, your Dan Biggers. But equally so, it would be saying the same thing if it was Argentina and you had Augustin Creevy, his last hurrah as well. So it's the duality and the cruelty of sport, really. So but no, about it.
Yeah, and remember, I think we also spoke last week. I said to you, I think a lot depends on the balance of the RG's emotions and where they are, and I think they brought the right level. And I think that crowd was something that also was a factor for them. Hey, I think that got them up there and was on their side. And yes,
and it is that crowd factor, that support, and those fans that you have, and it does make such a big difference. And it's such a weird thing, obviously it compels in comparison, obviously my sort of sporting days, but I played semi-professional and would go to stadiums, and it's a very weird thing that you don't really hear the noise unless it's for you. That's what I found, at least. You know what I mean? So that sort of harassment and whatnot, I was able to I didn't really register much in my ears, but as soon as you sort of heard your team's name or a chant or a song that was associated with your team, that all of a sudden just hit a different wavelength and was coming through, and it can be so uplifting, which was massive. But I just want to pick up one comment here, Chris, quickly. It was
sure, of course. Bring in the crowd.
W. Yeah. So it's lovely to have obviously all of you watching. Thanks so much. But Brent W here says, this weekend's rugby was easily the best of the tourney so far. Can't see the next 2 weeks reaching the same heights. Although having said that, the New Zealand BOKS final will be super special. And I think to touch on that, everyone before the weekend was saying, yes, the big games are New Zealand, Ireland, and South Africa, France. And while they were big games, they were amazing games. I don't think the other two quarterfinals disappointed either. I think they were also extremely entertaining. I think it was just the best weekend of rugby I've ever watched, the World Cup rugby.
RG came from behind. Then we had the All Black Ireland game, and Fiji brought it to a draw with 10 minutes to go, right? I mean, every game was amazing. I mean, look, as buzzing as we are, and I don't want to take any away from Argentina and how England we did think England could sneak into a semi-final, but how buzzing would we have been if those were semis and now we're straight into the final? This week we'll be but we're going to have a little bit of this. It's going to be a good weekend of rugby as well. And so the weather's coming in, so we might see different styles. We're definitely going to see different styles and matchups here compared to last week. And certainly going to, I totally agree. I mean, South Africa and New Zealand, they're not going to be able to come back. But we'll discuss that in the previews. But they get onto the New Zealand Ireland game. I think, so I kept my SUPERBRU, my New Zealand SUPERBRU pick, because that again is just, I keep on using it. We're going to keep using that word grudge, because it is New Zealand. And, I've just watched so much of this, not even rugby. When I see grudge matches, single sports, soccer matches, teams are up for it. And that's what I said. I said, New Zealand are going to be at 110% the whole game. And they were. So I called that right. And I said, what are Ireland going to do if they're behind with 10 minutes, 20 minutes to go? And they did. They started to get nervous. The legs did start to go, but don't take anything away. I mean, as you know, it's a dodgy penalty, wrong other penalty call, and they win. And Geordie Barrett at the end, they're keeping the ball up, and I was Shane Cronin. See that, but that's what I meant. The big moment, the pressure moment. Unfortunately, Ireland player probably was a Shane who was behind. He was the hooker over the head. Okay, he just broke away a little bit too soon. So it started to obviously get into their mind that they weren't over the line. And they were supposed to be, and they made those mistakes. But take nothing away from New Zealand,
No, absolutely. No, it was phenomenal. And as I said, I seem to be alone on the Forever Sports community, or at least group on this one. Or maybe I think Chris may be with me. No, it was Cal, I think, was with me. I was gutted for the Irish players. And yes, the arrogance and the cockiness.
Me too.
And this, but it was, and I'm a sucker for that fairy tale sort of, maybe watch too many kind of movies and whatnot, but it looked like there was something phenomenal building, and you didn't have to like them, the Irish and Johnny Sexton and Peter O'Mahony. hated him, but God damn it, did I respect him, and it was just that, watching that journey, and yeah, I think I was gutted. Likewise, after the French game, I was gutted for the home nation. Obviously elated and stoked the BOKS had gone through, but there was a part of me of that story had come to an end, and obviously it had to end so ours could continue. But no, it was just a phenomenal weekend.
Okay, I have to admit, I still have a Southern Hemisphere hat on, right? So I was still back in New Zealand. I love the tradition, the old guard. I'm still all for that. But I do love that France and Ireland are front run, top 4 amazing sides. I was gutted for Ireland, because if you look at the 2 journeys to get to that was what for me made this game so special. I think France and us were always going to be this go hell for leather, top two teams, pretty much similar. But I mean, I was shouting New Zealand home, but I did also say straight away, oh, shame, man. Because also part of me wanted, I know we want the BOKS to go all the way, but I wanted either Ireland or France to be in that final. One of them deserved to be in that final. For rugby as well, part of me these guys have done both teams have spent 7 years to get there. Expectations for the first time were realistic there. And these baggers from Southern Hemisphere came and stole their dreams, and it's tough it must be tough. I wouldn't, but I was okay. I didn't want to lose to France, but I could have taken it because of the France story, and and we've won our World Cups. But obviously, I haven't. I mean, I don't know what I said. Well, we were down to 6 months. I didn't. That was Springboks don't usually come back from that situation. Home crowd, that team. I was so surprised. That just made it even more exhilarating how we came back there. It's just great. It was amazing.
Yeah, I'm always tempted. I find myself catching myself when I say how the BOKS won. It was by hook or by crook or by witchcraft, because then it actually takes away something from them. Like they were just a great team on that night, the Springboks, who found a way to win. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't a massive blowout, or it wasn't, the clean, crisp. And to be honest, I think my comments probably after the game, immediately after in that reaction show, were a bit unfair. I was saying, oh, but we need to tighten up this, we need to tighten up that. And rightly so, the guys in the comments just kind of called me out and said, hey, look, they've played against a phenomenal French side at home with that home advantage. So the BOKS they dug deep and they just found a way to win. And as we started off the segment, my concern is now we need to do that again, because it's going to be another big weekend of rugby. You speak about grudge matches. I mean, if anyone's got a grudge, it's the English against the BOKS.
No, I know. So, for me, this feels as big as what the Irish and New Zealand games did for those 2 teams. For us, especially for England, but also us, because now our expectations are, because even in 2007 we flew under the radar a little bit. I mean, we had a great side then, but I don't recall myself thinking, oh, geez, we're going to win this thing. Those are still the days when New Zealand we still had to get past New Zealand and Australia were decent, but this is a whole new ball game for the BOKS. But I was the same as you. I saw France monstering into our half, monstering the 22, scoring, us scoring off mistakes. And I said to myself and my friend, I said, we're scoring off mistakes, that's going to dry out, and France just going to look like they're going to carry on doing that. So I was concerned that our play was not going to work. But then the second half changes came in early. France started to get nervous. And even so, even if I thought we stayed, I still thought, thank God Faf ripped that ball out, because part of me was still going that fucking ref's going to blow a French penalty any minute now, and we're going to keep it out. I wasn't excited. I wasn't happy until the end of the final whistle, But it also made the whole game so great,
It was. And it was just, for me, it really cemented why rugby is the best sport in the world, and why we watch it. And, every time I say there's a BOK game, I have the voice in my head that I'm not going to watch it. It's too stressful. But you can't help yourself, and you do watch it just for weekends like that and for performances like that, because it was just something I think I'll remember specifically, for a very, very long time. So I mean, here, looking in the chat again, we've got Brent W there saying, I've rewatched the France game 4 times now and still can't believe we won. which is just testament to how good that game was. But also in the comments there, Safra Kiwi saying, I've never seen a BOK pack dominated like the BOKS in the first 10 minutes of the game on the weekend. Yeah, so and that was something that was quite different, where the forwards didn't really seem to be doing what we expected them to do, and it was almost a bit reminiscent of the Ireland game where they called them the bomb diffusers, which is a term that really annoys me, but fair enough. They did the job, they came on and they spoiled things. So it was a bit a little bit concerned, but as I said, they dug deep, and then Eben Etzbeth putting on an absolute performance. And I've seen lots of different pundits and shows and whatnot talking about he might be one of the best forwards to play, and maybe even potential nomination for Player of the Year.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. What I noticed in our game, you could see the attention to detail of the Springboks. Like Eben, he deliberately, you could see he tried to push it back, like to think on that spot, because usually the hand comes out, it goes forward. To take that scrum off a mark. I mean, there's just Colby's charge down. All of these, you could see the Springboks are so hyper focused on the small. You could see that it's almost like they are trained for that. They're making the small margins count for themselves, and then the whole one team, one dream of getting back to it. Getting back, and I must say, going for that try, I think it was 67 minutes, right? 6 minutes behind, you got Pollard on the field. That was a penalty. We go back for some more, right? The fact that South Africa went for that try was also South Africa just being completely they're just keeping everyone on their toes all the time, and I think that's great tactics, and that's probably what, besides this whole goal that these guys want to win this World Cup together. At the moment, for me, the BOKS are winning the small margins. And I'm going to read out the ref because obviously the French, she's upset. Barnesy had a good one. I think there was some moaning in the Wales game, but we've had it on our side, and we've bitched about it as well. But yeah, it's not fun when if you do genuinely feel hard done by refs. Which obviously the French do certainly feel they were. So I don't know. I can understand. These are the margins, right? I mean, it comes down to these margins, and this is why I feel good about the Springboks.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think very, very quickly on the refs, and as I know we don't like to talk about it because there's so much to talk about and stuff. But I think if the game's going to come down to such a tight margin as it did, the 1 point, and even in the New Zealand Ireland game, I'm sure they were either side. Well, the Irish will feel aggrieved on some calls, but when it's such a tight margin like that, the losing side, no matter if the ref was objectively 100%, which they won't be because they're people and they're going to make mistakes too, but the losing side will be aggrieved by some calls because of how close it was and how passionate the fans are and how difficult it is for that home crowd to view it objectively and to say, yep, no, that was a fair call. So I think Ben O'Keefe, and again, it'll, anyone watching me will say, oh, of course you're going to say that because you're a South African fan, but I did think Ben O'Keefe generally had a good game across the park. Likewise with the Irish game, the pool game that we played, again, it was such a tight game in the margins and we were moaning there, but because it was so close, I think, Rusty sort of spoke about his tweet from was it last year or a couple of years ago? I don't know when it was, but where he was saying we need to make it clearer for the refs. But
again, those are small margins again, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And he was saying what he meant by that was we don't want to rely on the 50-50 decisions because that's what they are, 50-50. We want to make it so the decision is almost 90-10, where 90% of the time we're showing we're doing the right thing. So I think that's a brilliant mindset. And so that's where we want to be working. And that's where I think the Springboks are operating, where they're trying to make things as clear as possible. And so things do fall, not in their favor, but because they're making the right calls. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Sure, we can. Well, let's go. Let's preview. I did get the team sheets. We can look into the semi-finals. Let me get it up here. Let's add. Get our face back in here. Oops. Yeah. So this is obviously the RGs and the New Zealand sides. I'm sure obviously everyone's seen it, but I put it up anyway. But I suppose not real surprises here. And I think I also made a question to Pam about the injuries. I saw it also on X this today. not many serious injuries in all the squad, all these squads. Like there's one or two, but I mean, you considering and how physical these games have been that some of these teams have played, it's quite incredible that these teams have come through. I mean, obviously, still think Matera's going to be a big loss for them. I think he was pivotal in that win. I think it was a win and a draw they had recently over New Zealand. I think in New Zealand, right? And he was their mainstay, their key kingpin. He was at the Crusaders. So I think there's a lot of comfort and experience that would have helped them. But then obviously Telea's back, which look, he was the form wing of the world, right? But I love Leicester. I've always loved him for the Crusaders. I thought that is a hard done, but I think Telea was always going to be the starter anyway. So Leicester's not even on the bench, pro Oak. But yeah, any comments on the teams and how do you see it going?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think in terms of team selection, it's knockout time. So you're not going to put any huge changes or mix-ups. Bar there being a massive injury. So as you said, I think it's quite a testament, I think, to the players. I think a testament to the sort of physio and medical team and recovery team. To get their players able to play such a physical, tough game the full 80 minutes, right? It wasn't like they could just park the bus at 60, 70 and kind of sort of just defend. They had to play all the way up until, I mean, not even the 80th minute in the All Blacks case. It was up until the 80 something minute where they had to keep going. But no, I think I'm excited to see Telea. I couldn't believe what a good player he is, but when he sort of came in those first couple of games, he just couldn't be tackled. He just wouldn't go down. It was very like Cheslin Colby-ish in a way. He just got around defenders, stayed on his feet and kept making meters. So I'm always excited to see back him. But I think it's going to be, as I said, that word should, I don't like to use it, but I do think the All Blacks are going to take this one. It should be not a comfortable win for them, but I do see if it doesn't go down to the wire where, Argentina potentially win it that way, I kind of do see the All Blacks running away with it and looking in very good form.
Yeah, I agree. This is World Cup time, and this is the thing. The BOKS and New Zealand showed their World Cup pedigree at the end of the day, right? This is not a random test that means means nothing, but the Rugby Championship might have been decided already, or RG don't have a chance. This is World Cup semi-final time, and New Zealand, I believe all the teams will come on switched on, but I just think if that's the case, all things considered, New Zealand is a 15-point better side. But the thing is, like, why? Well, people say that New Zealand were flying under the radar, right? But, were they? They almost hammered Italy by 100 points. Okay, yeah, they got hammered by the BOKS. I don't know. And like I said last week, for me, very, very keen. I'd show that again. Geordie Barrett at 12 playing well. Shannon Frizzell, well, the whole back row played amazing. But Shannon Frizzell and Geordie Barrett are so key to this team. Like normally you wouldn't say it's down to a couple of players for New Zealand, right? Because Oaks up to 3 guys down, pull in and slot in for Oaks, no problem. But New Zealand are a player or two short of being a cohesive team that they showed, like because it's shown. But to get themselves so up, we hadn't seen it for 18 months. So it's just incredible. I don't know. Yeah, that's the New Zealand of old, right? That was New Zealand that we expect, and the New Zealand of old we expect every week. And if that is the case, the BOKS are going to have a very hard time as well. Let's face it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that that New Zealand side that showed up to Twickenham and got hammered by the BOKS is an anomalous result. I think personally, I think the BOKS played very good rugby. I think they played really well in that game. Don't get me wrong. Take nothing away from the Springbok dominance of that performance. However, I think if we objectively look at it, I think that New Zealand side, I don't know who that was, but it wasn't the All Blacks. Now the scorecard and the history books and the record will say it is, and it is. I get it, but I think you can't look at that and go, well, there we go. We'll do that again. Whatever happens, we'll just do that again. Like it's not going to work out that way. But you are right, Chris. I think it is interesting to see. There are a few players. If you think about like an Ardie Surveyor, if an Ardie Surveyor goes down or off early, and the Shannon Frizzells, the Geordie Barrett, the Richie Moanga, there are a few key players in that side where potentially if things don't go their way, or they're having a bad day, or if they go down early injured or a head injury, which we hope, you don't want that, and we keep saying this, you want to see the best playing the best. I do think this New Zealand side starts to look a bit different, and the RGs might be in with more of a shout.
Yeah. Well, yes, so we said it's going to be greasy. I suppose that does play into the RG's hands because I obviously watching a whole lot of rugby when the RGs have competed with Australia, for instance, and I've done this very well because I had a lot of money on two draws back in 2020, and they both arrived in Australia and the downpours in the second half. I think, yeah, to slow, it will slow, yeah, it slows the New Zealanders down, like of course it does. So that brings Argentina into the game. So yeah, dry pitch, I would say over 20, they run away with it with All Blacks. But I think if it's going to be greasy, they could start rattling the All Blacks. But I just think the All Blacks can't lose to Argentina in the World Cup semi-final, surely. I mean, no disrespect for Argentina, great team, great spirit. But I mean, I'll pack it all up, and so I said we've been moaned at for boring opinions. Okay, I call Argentina. Argentina are going to win. No, well, what's your prediction, Wes?
No, it's yeah, no. I mean, I think, as you said, dry pitch. I think that the All Blacks are too good, and I agree with you. I don't think they've been flying under the radar. I think they had a tough ask against a very good French side in that opening game. Again, at home, I mean, the French would have been just completely fired up for that. So it was always a tough mountain to climb. And then ever since that, I think the All Blacks have just done what they needed to do, and they've done it well. You know, they've come out, they've beat Namibia significantly, they've beat Uruguay significantly, you know, a side that gave the French, you know, quite a lot of stick, and then they came on and put 96 points against Italy. You know, so I think they weren't flying under the radar. I just think whoever's radar was being used was broken. I think the All Blacks were, you know, very, very good. And then yeah, to come out against Ireland and then find a way to win. But cutting to the chase, you know, I do think the All Blacks are going to take it. You know, we're seeing here, we got some predictions in the comments. Thanks, guys. We got Brent W and Safra Kiwi giving us some predictions. You know, Brent W saying New Zealand by 15 to 20, regardless of conditions. Safra Kiwi saying New Zealand by 13. Yeah, I think New Zealand. I'm almost with Brent W a bit more. I think regardless of conditions, I think the All Blacks are going to take it by about 20 to maybe 30 points. I just think too much for the RGs again. Not disrespecting them, they are a quality side. Yeah. We were looking forward to what up, you know, coming into the World Cup, and everyone was a bit disappointed. I know I was extremely disappointed with their performance against England, but yeah, I just think All Blacks too good. So yeah. All Blacks, yeah.
Yeah, this is. I wouldn't say it's the strongest Argentina side in the world that we've seen. And let's be fair, England and Argentina have come from a completely different side of the draw, you know, in terms of the competition they play. I also agree with Safra Kiwi. Yeah, Sanchez, big player. You would think he should be on the field most of the game, like a game like that. So I totally agree with it. But how good was Mwanga as well on the weekend? All the New Zealanders stepped up, but Mwanga, I think when Mwanga's at the top of his form, he is the best in the world. But he hasn't been consistent enough recently.
Yeah, no. You're making Reza very happy by saying that, Chris.
Well, it's still Intermac for me, but Intermac's not there, leading his team into semi-final, you know. So, but we'll have to say, when I was calling France to go all the way in this competition, it was two things didn't happen on besides BOKS being amazing. Intermac needed to be there because I think Intermac was someone that could have broken that game up in the last 10. One of the few players in the world that could have made magic from nothing. And I'll be honest, I did think they were going to get a penalty to win that game. I had that in my head. So those two things didn't happen for us. Well, we were. Oh, and going back to this whole book, let's actually go. Yeah, I also agree. New Zealand, between 10 and 20, depending on the conditions, they pull away. We can move on to our game. We'll go better afterwards. But yeah, what a grudge match, my man. England, South Africa meet again in a World Cup massive match. And where do we even start? Because yeah, you know, for 6 years, since 2018, we haven't named the same starting lineup. So we've been so used to change starting lineups. Everyone was expecting at least 4 changes. A massive physical game, like as we said, emotionally. I mean, these Springboks are something else because, like you said, these guys are going to go again against this England side, and like I said, how hard it is to pick them up. How are you feeling? I mean,
no, I'm like, you know, it's a horrible place to be because if we had lost to France, as you said, it would have been gutting. I would have been so disappointed. But it would have been like, okay, I can take that loss on the chin. It's a fantastic French side. They're at home. And then I wish them all the best and probably would have been rooting for them. I cannot handle if we lose to England. It will not. I cannot. I'm struggling to find the words. It would be just unthinkable, and not because we shouldn't, but just because it's England, and it's the whole ABE mindset and anyone but England. I still think the absolute pinnacle of advertising was that Six Nations campaign ad. I don't know if you saw that a couple of years ago, where they kind of went round to different pubs, and sort of shot people in different jerseys. They had the Welsh and sort of cheering and saying England, like, and raising their drink, and then the Scottish doing the same, and the Irish and the Italians. And then you were confused because you were like, why are these people cheering for England? And then afterwards it fades to black and the text comes up on the screen and it says, we asked these people, who do they want to lose? And it was just like that, it was brilliant. Yeah. And that's it. You just one but England, regardless of who's playing. So it's going to be the grudge match of grudge matches. They've got a big, huge chip on their shoulder. I mean, I've seen so much social media about the faces of the English side when the BOKS were lifting the trophy in 2019. So, I heard John Smith earlier this week saying, it's an easy week as the captain, especially for a Springbok captain, because you don't need to do much to fire up the players to play against the BOKS. But my goodness, it must be an even easier week as the English captain, because you need to do next to nothing to fire up your Oaks to play against the Springboks.
Yeah. But like this, and I've always, said this, Eddie, this England side had many good moments under Eddie Jones, and there's a lot of guys from the final in this team as well. You look at this England team on paper, they should not be performing the way they have been. Let's face it, the last year under Eddie Jones, and even the start of Borthwick. So I still look at this team and I'm happy that they haven't showed much, because it looks like we're just bullying them, because I don't know if it's the grunt and the commitment that I was worried had been seemingly lacking from them. But 1 to 23, they got good players. They're very good players in their own right. They're stand-up players in the English Prem. But it goes back to what this game is, what this game means to half those English players and grudge matches, and England are going to step up. I don't know. I still see it going to be kind of maybe even like Twickenham last year. I don't know if England are going to run with us for 80 minutes. They will throw it all out and they might empty the tank, kind of like the World Cup final might fade. But that's easy to say done, right? Because these guys will be playing with everything. So
no, absolutely. And I think it comes down to, as you said, that 80 minutes that's how long the game is. And as we've seen in some of the quarterfinals, 82, 84 minutes. But we just check here, Brent W in the chat saying the BOKS have managed the workload brilliantly, but there is always an element of risk. And I do think, we saw some of the stats about players, and how long they've been on the field for. And we saw the Irish players and how the lack of rotation there just maybe fatigued them a bit and potentially not able to come out and as fresh as they would have liked against New Zealand. Speaking of New Zealand, Dabu8701 then goes and says, if the BOKS lose to England, I'm buying All Blacks merch immediately. I think we'll see the bump in All Blacks purchasing if the England do make the Safra Kiwi saying it's going to be closer than people think, and I'm probably there as well. I think Safra Kiwi, or someone mentioned in the comments earlier about it's going to be very similar, I think, to the South Africa-Wales semi-final of 2019, where it was a slogfest and it wasn't pretty and it was a penalty that got us over, and especially with the conditions.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the England thing. I would probably have preferred to have lost that final last year than this BOK team to go and lose now to this England team. You know what I mean? I will probably die if we lose to Farrell on Saturday. I think a piece of me will die forever, and I won't be able to recover, and that's for sure. But I won't. Look, if they get through, they get through. They're 2 games away again from lifting the title. No one gave them a chance. But I just still think that the BOKS, this is a better BOKS team. If you, like, let's be honest, right? How many of these England players would make this BOKS team at the moment? 4, maybe max. And you got to look at it like that. And you know, and you remember the days when teams didn't change, right? I know, I agree. We talked about burnout. It's not about the physical burnout, but we've seen so many drop-offs from big games. New Zealand beat us at Ellis Park, lost to Argentina. England beat New Zealand in the semi-final, got hammered by us. It happens, guys. We're not trying to say this book won't. We can't say it won't happen. We won't be as intense as we were. That's reality. It's like almost impossible. That game's always a freak of nature. So you just and that's what people are saying. Oh, England could be coming in a bit more fresher in a way. But like I've always said, I know it's a cop out, and maybe Red's going to be pissed off. And I acknowledge we see your comments there, Red. But I just trust. I've always said I just trust what Rassi and Jacques are doing. Like, this is not. It's surprising, but it's not surprising. They're keeping us on our toe. I had a friend who had a comment that he felt, and I agree, because we still got 2 massive matches to get through to win the World Cup. Right? It's still a long way to go, and the BOKS. I always worried that the BOKS, like I said, I think I've said a few shows, to go almost 6 big games in a row is very, very difficult. And that's what we have to do. We didn't beat Ireland, only a point against France. And we got a 2. So, you know what I mean? I know it's great, but it can happen. It can happen that we're going to be a little bit flat on Saturday and we're going to struggle. It can, that's reality.
Yeah, precisely. And as CJ Bruce says in the comments as well, like, it's going to depend on what the BOKS have left in the tank after the France game physically.
That's what we were saying, right?
And mentally as well. And absolutely, I think it's just this. But this is what tournaments are about. Like, it's absolutely this. It's the ability to stick in it and stick through it and fight through it. And again, it's 2 sides who have had the toughest draw. Probably, you look at the New Zealand side having to go through France. They lost to France and then come through Ireland. And the South African side, losing to Ireland and having to go through France, and then face, the 2 sides who potentially have had a slightly easier. Now, we're not blaming the draw at any bit like that. That's what it is. That's how it goes. But it is a massive task for these guys to go in physically, mentally, to come through it. Ireland were potentially, I think they were said to have had the toughest draw, not only the teams they had to play, but then also the sequence of games, right? So thankfully the BOKS had that week off, right? After the Tonga game, they had some time off to prepare against France. I mean, can you imagine not having had that week and having to have gone from the back of Scotland or an Ireland or even a Tonga, and go and play a French side like that. So it's going to be a huge boys, but have to. And that's what what
Ireland had to achieve. They were at 17 wins in a row. BOKS had that record. Irish team played all the way through. They hardly made any changes. I think they made a few changes in 1 or 2 of the warm-up games. But that 17-18 game mark seems to be the threshold that a team can just grunt out until they have to lose. So law of averages, they would have won 18 in a row, gone 9, won 20 in a row to win the World Cup. If you actually think about it, that is very, very tough. And in the last 10 minutes, some of those Oaks were out on their feet. They were. And New Zealand took them there, of course. But I think Rassi's also made that comment. And that was potentially the risk. If they weren't 7 or 8 points ahead, and could close it out that way. But yeah, they almost were. They ran out of ideas at the end, and obviously New Zealand never went under 110%, which was always going to be the case.
Yeah. No, and it's a bit not concerning is the wrong word to use here, but if you think about it, right? So we've got this team that put in a massive shift against France, right, and emptied the tank for that game and needed to get the win. You've got the same team now playing against England, who are not an easy team to beat. And I don't care. And come at me in the comments, whatever. They are not an easy team. I think they've got good rugby IQ. They'll grind out small victories. They'll put high balls up. They've got a very tall back three. Like they'll kick the post. They take the points when it's on offer. They're not an easy team to beat. So let's say the BOKS, we hope it happens. The BOKS come out on top and they win this weekend. What does your team look like in the final? How different does your team look like from the team starting on Saturday? And if it's not very different, those men have played 2 tough games before, and you're asking them to play another tough 80, probably against the All Blacks. It is a huge task for the boys.
Yeah. And this is not because I'm a Farrell. Look, Farrell's great for me up until 3 years ago, and he should be playing there with Saracens on the weekend, for my humble opinion. But this is my opinion. I thought England were going okay. Farrell's come in, they scraped through against Samoa. Fiji, okay, he's playing at 10, and he should be at 10 if he's going to be in the team. I'm pointing out that I still don't think he's the right person at 10. And even, that's what I'm saying. God forbid this guy freaking brings his smug face like he did against New Zealand and takes us out. But, it'll be well done if he does. But I actually went back and looked at the final. I actually totally forgot that Ford was 10 and Farrell was 12 that World Cup final day. But yeah, we are at Farrell 10. Do you think at the moment that Farrell's the 10? He's the guy that's going to lead them now. But it was always obvious that he was the guy, right? That Borthwick was going to have lead in the side. So I suppose nothing that we say we're going to matter. Yeah, he's there and he's taking them.
Yeah.
Even though I think George's.
Yeah, and Brent W agreeing with me in the chat there, saying it's going to be the toughest campaign for Springbok team ever. If they go all the way, it'll make it all the sweeter. And that's it, right? Like if you go on a hike and you see some nice sights, like that's fantastic. But if you go and you do something physical and you climb a mountain and you get to the top, it's part of that joy has come from the suffering. Do you know what I mean? And so the victory of the World Cup, if the BOKS can do it and go all the way and lift the trophy, will come from the fact of the adversity they've had to go through. And that's often why we sort of people who've been through adversity, they talk about that adversity making the victory all the sweeter. So no, I think it's going to be a huge. And like you said, if England come to the party, they play a very similar game to Wales, and we often struggle against Wales. And I think that's what I'm worried. If there's a little bit greasy and they bring that little that type, I think it's going to be. I said also I caught like I think this game could easily be won by a kick, and it could be another Pollard kick like against Wales, and it's going to be. It could be a Pollard kick, Chris, or it could be a George Ford drop goal, or an Owen Farrell drop goal.
Or Ches and Colby drop goal.
And hopefully Faf, if you're listening, I know maybe, but hopefully Faf finds the target to the oak and not into another player on the ground. Now I know what he was going for. I know he was going for the penalty, but I thought for me that was my favorite Ben O'Keefe moment. Was actually a call that went against us, because I loved to see the fact that he was saying, no, I'm not having any of your shit. The player was on the ground there. Your player was over there. You could have easily made that pass. Don't come here and try and milk the three. So I stood up at that point and sort of clapped for Ben O'Keefe. I was like, that's excellent refereeing there, because that's what I like to see. Play the game of rugby. Don't play the penalty. And that got so pissed off when players, maybe potentially took a slight touch to the face or neck, throwing their hands up, rolling on the ground, grabbing their faces. I was not there for any of it. And so I was very glad to see Faf get pulled out on it.
And one last thing, because shame old Marcus boy got his pretty face smashed up on the weekend. Just before we get final predictions, do you think Freddie Stewart, he is a slower player. Do you think he's done enough when he has played for England, or do you think they're going to miss Smith?
It's so funny, isn't it? Because, England now are kind of lamenting over the fact that they haven't got Marcus Smith. But not so long ago, he wasn't even in the conversation to start at 15. He was trying at 10, maybe at 15, maybe he comes on. So it's the love-hate the English have with their players and their teams and the selections. And it's kind of like you don't know what you've got till it's gone, right? I think personally, I think England will miss Marcus Smith. I think he has got the pace, he's got the vision. Freddie Stewart brings something else. He's big, he's physical, he gets up in the air. So expect a lot of up and unders from the English. If you know that they do, they'll send Smith after it, and back the boys, Colby, Willemse, and obviously Arendse on the wings. But I do think if we can get our boys ball in hand running around Stewart, it's going to be a long day for the number 15, the English number 15.
Yeah, and just one shot at on the books, and I think we all held bent on this, the bomber squad in the 6-2 and bringing that into the game, and people following us, and then we went to the 7-1 and back to the 5-3. The bomber squad, what it was used to describe, basically like 6 huge oaks coming on and changing the game, and the teams you were playing couldn't live with it. But we got 5 World Cup starters coming on as reserves. Like that's a bomb. That's a bomb in its own right. Right? They might, and I think it's the way we use reserves. It's been the Priasi's trailblazed, and you got to give him credit for that, because it's a completely different ball game. Like the whole dynamic changes when whoever the benches seems to work most of the time.
Absolutely. And we talk about the mind games, and people talk about Rassie and Jocks and everything, and there's a bit of love-hate, and some people just hate and some people just love. But again, it goes back to my point about the Irish. You don't have to like them. I do like Rassie and Jacques, but you don't have to like them, but you have to respect them, because they've been disruptors in the space. They've pioneered in certain areas. They've taken risks, bringing in the 6-2, the bomb squad, this, that, the next. But now, and I love the fact that they're not really referring it to as the bench or the bomb squad or the this or the that. It's more finishers, starters and finishers, and no set of players, no individuals are better than the next. You just have different roles, And so whether you come on 10 minutes to go, that's how long you finish the game for. If you come on with, what did we see? We saw, Sia Khaleesi getting our captain, getting subbed at 45 minutes. And someone else, was it Dion Free, who came on for him. He had to play 35 minutes, and he had to finish the game for 35 minutes. So I honestly think it's just been fantastic to see the shift away from this idea that if you're not in the starting 15, you are less than, or you are not as good as. That for me, at least in a Springbok jersey, has gone out the window, because we can just see how good, as you said, World Cup winners coming off the bench. It's like what a
the starters. They started the World Cup final. I also I also don't know if you caught there's so many like Reg, right? There's a lot of this rugby podcasts coming out every orifice at the moment, wherever you look on the internet. But they're interesting. But did you see the one with Matfield and Smith? And Matfield said he messaged Vermeulen when he was out of the island. Was it island game, I think?
Yes.
And he just said, "Who cares? One team, one dream, one mission," and that said it all. Yep. That said it all. That's all you need to know about the BOKS. So that's why it's a different.
Enjoyed that podcast, or the box office, right?
The box office,
Sort of the box office with those two going back and forth. And no, when I heard that, I was like, yes, that's what it's about. And that's when I heard the boys talking this morning.
One team, one mission. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. About the team selection, we were talking about, oh, well, maybe they'll feel hard done by, they're being left out. I think, maybe personally, the guys might feel, oh, I wish I was playing. And if they didn't feel that way, I wouldn't want them in the squad, right? If a player hadn't been selected and wasn't disappointed to some degree, I wouldn't want that individual in my 33, because it shows that you don't want to be there. However, given the mindset, the attitude of the fact of, yes, personally, I'm disappointed that I'm not playing. However, it is for the best of the team, or whatever the case is, and therefore I support the decision. As we said, one team, one sort of vision. I think the boys are fully into it. The BOKS understand that it is bigger than them. Their individual hopes and dreams. It is about the team, and it is about the nation, right? The South African nation that these guys are going onto the field for.
Yeah. All right. I don't know if you've got anything else you want to add. Otherwise, we're going to do predictions. But I'm going to say it's a New Zealand South Africa final. You got any other? Look, I'm nervous. I am very nervous. I'm. Part of me doesn't want to believe it, but a part of me has this gut-wrenching feeling that this England side's coming at us hard, and this is the game where either we're going to be off the rails. And sorry for mentioning a ref again, but maybe we get a dodgy ref. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we're going to dodge this bullet a few more times if we're going to get to hold that trophy again, But I'm the cook. The BOKS are good enough. This team's good enough.
Yeah. No. I'm with you. I'm absolutely tucking my pants. As I said, like I am so, because yes, I do think there is a chance that this English side beats us because of what they come out with, because of the high the BOKS have come off and empty the tank against that France team. Can they come back? Can they reset, come back down? Take deep breaths and then build it all up again and come out and show the same, sort of fire and passion. So no, I think, while I think there's a chance that the English side might come out and take it, I don't think it's a big chance. So I'm going to back the Boks. As I said, yeah, I'm with you there. I think New Zealand and Springbok final. That's what I think, and I hope is going to happen. But yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think my last comment is like, do you actually see England coming out with something a little bit different? Like maybe they would have done New Zealand, or are they just going to come with their strength, gun-ho strength, and 120%, and hope they put enough pressure on the Boks start making mistakes and they take advantage? Like, I don't see something different from this team. They haven't shown anything different in 2 years, so I just think they're going to come super focused, try and minimize mistakes, put the pressure on, and hope that I don't think man for man they're a better side, so they're going to need a little bit of the luck as well.
Yeah, I think to beat the Boks, I think you've got to obviously come physically, right? You've got to match up, and you've got to try your best. I don't think you beat them purely on that front, because I think there's a reason that everyone comments on the physicality of the Springboks. Yeah. I think what England do need to do is what we did against France in terms of, as you said, the small wins, the charging down of the kick, the smart plays where they can actually, even knocking the ball back. I think if England wants to stand a chance, they've got to put all those small wins together, and it's the small bit by bit by bit, chipping away, winning this victory, winning that victory, going unnoticed, clearing well, exiting from your 22, having good touch finders, winning your lineouts. Like, I know it sounds like I'm just talking about rugby, but ultimately that is what England are going to have to do, and they're going to have to do it flipping well against the Boks. So I think if they do that and they bring the energy, then they stand a good chance. But I think if they start to get in their heads and they start to drop their heads and they start to not put those small phases together, I think we could see the Boks also run away with it. We spoke about
I agree.
I think if the Boks show up and England don't, it's going to be a tough day to beat Cal Usher, in the Forever Sports group.
Well, I must say my initial gut, and I love my gut generally is my safe place, and I get it wrong because when I start to overthink is when I start to make mistakes in my predictions and the punting. But initially I said this is just, at the moment, the golf is just too big with the top four and the rest. Ask Scotland, who were 5th in the world when we played them. England are up to 5th now, but I just think the golf is just too big. And at the end of the day, for me, cream does rise to the top. And you do actually often see blowouts in provincial games as well. You think semis are going to be close, but obviously I've watched and punted a lot on it. Not often. A lot of the time, the top teams of the tournament actually can blow out teams and knock out rugby. So I initially thought that, but something sneakily inside me says that, let's see how the game goes. We'll see. I think it's just get it in place. Only once the games go and you see the first phases go and you get a good idea of possibly where the game is going to go. All right, my man. Sure. We can.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say final comments before we wrap it up here from the guys in the chat here. Brent W coming with a thought. He's saying, here's a thought: the Boks weren't at their best against France, which I agree with. I think there's areas we can tighten up. He says, but could they gear up this Saturday? I think they might. Yeah, maybe we see the Boks start to fire at that 85-90%. Again, I wouldn't want to see them at their best this Saturday. I want to see that hopefully if they make it through to the final. Monty van Staden here saying, besides the actual game, we've been privileged to witness some of the greatest rugby brains at work. I am most probably going to spell the French coach name wrong, but he talks about Farrell, Checker, and Inaber. And then Mikhail Adams there saying the Boks need to protect the area on the wing when the opposition is on their 5-meter line, because most of the tries are scored in that area against the Boks. Guys, all absolutely fantastic, valid points. We appreciate you guys getting involved in the chat. I know Red wasn't too happy with us earlier, not necessarily engaging with you a bit much. We've got lots to chat about. We always enjoy reading your comments, so please do keep them coming through. And do try to get many of them as possible, we promise. Even earlier with Pam, and what a privilege that was to have her on, and how insightful that was. We did field questions both from the Forever Sports guys, as well as sort of a lot of questions that have come up throughout over time on the Forever Sports channel. So as always, we do try to get to as many of your questions as possible within the lot of time, guys. But we thank you for joining us here on Forever Sports, and definitely make sure you join along on the watch-alongs. We'll be in the conversation with you, giving Stevie P a hard time and trying to get his attention as he takes us through the semi-finals.
yeah, Wes, I've got to thank you, mate, for reading out the comments because you've done a sterling job there. I have tried to put some up on the screen as well. So that's good. As I say, yeah, it's true. This is the fan forum, of course, and this is about you guys, and we want you guys to get a much better value. Obviously, all in it together. Just quickly on the betting segment, because we're not a betting show, but just quickly, we've had our first losing week in 7 weeks. Wes 7 weeks we were winning. And we came crashing down last weekend. But look, I'm not upset about it because that run was quite a run. I'm not gonna lie, I'll take some credit there. But yeah, Wellington, they couldn't freaking beat Hawke's Bay. They were unbeaten the whole tournament, and then they played Hawke's Bay the last round, lost semi-final, lost Hawke's Bay back to back. Who knows where the Ranfurly Shield is or what's happened on it, but it's somewhere. And then, yeah, the second half of the New Zealand game, both our games, the first halves were monumental first half. So the second half split. So didn't happen. But the record, we're still doing really nice. Still 26 units up, 56 return on investment. If we were at 20% at this point, of the tip in 6 months, I'd still be happy with that. So 56 is great. And because on that note, it's a semi-final. I'm gonna push out the boat a little bit this week, and I've got a bigger punt, much bigger than I usually do, because there's been some comments I've seen that keep saying I'm too conservative, and they want to see some higher odds there. So the fans have spoken, and Chris has listened. So I've dug out a 5.20 unit treble for this weekend to keep us involved. And as you can see, my second half highest scoring has come back into the game. Now I need to say, the second half highest scoring were lower odds because obviously they give the probability of these things happening. And last weekend they evened out again, which they often do for big games. But it's gone back to where the second half is the favored half for the scoring. So I've gone that for the two semifinals because I think they'll be, they often are tighter affairs. And I see regression of first half big. That could be wrong because you never know. But I'm going to back this now till the end for this weekend. Those two teams, second half high scoring, we'll put that. And then Saracens got absolutely monstered the other day against Exeter, which no one was expecting. Now they're home to Bath, and I think typical Saracens. I love when top dogs are in the spot. And Saracens is one of that team that they'll come back and hammer Bath. I would suspect you can get good odds there. So you have to put those three together to make the treble, 1.5 units. So that's going to be a juicy return. That'll bring our return on investment right back up again if we win that one. So if you follow, otherwise take the second halves as singles. If you don't fancy the high odds, take the second halves as singles, maybe a unit or two. So that's a ways. When we got URC. I mean, it's been a long ass show. We're nearly on 2 hours. So I really appreciate this. We've had a decent amount of guys watching throughout the whole podcast. Do you want to do a mini preview on the URC? Maybe we can. I was thinking we can quickly discuss Stormers Lions, then maybe let's do a prediction where we think the South African teams are going to finish in this year's URC. Just do a quick preview. Fancy that? 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. But Chris, I'm gonna have to default to you big time on this one because I've had the privilege of living sort of all over the world, and as a result, some of those places has not been the easiest to watch rugby. I didn't have access to a Forever Sports back in the day, so my watching of sort of local premiership, kind of rugby like your Currie Cups, your URCs has been nowhere. So if I'm very honest, so I've not a Lions game or a Stormers game or I can't tell you years. So you're more than welcome to tell. I'm going to nod along with you very, very enthusiastically. Okay. I'm going to say, sounds good, Chris.
Well, that's what I was saying. That's okay, Wes. You're totally forgiven because you're superb in all other facets of rugby, and we love the inputs and the insights you give us. So thanks for being honest and leaving me on the spot. Yeah. So let's go. Lions,
because Stevie's not here to defend his team, right?
Well, so you've got I'm disappointed. I want to see Reza and Steve's face right now, and I want to discuss Stormers versus Lions. But they ran away like the Lions, they ran away from the stadium and their team. A convenient fair weather friends, fair weather fans. Oh, there he is.
Oh, look at this.
Oh. So the teams aren't out there, Stevie. for Stormers.
No,
So I was looking for them.
Teams come out tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that is the chat. I think the line's being announced by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what time the Stormers are actually being announced. Was actually check on that. But
yeah, it was just Steve. I know it's been a long show for everyone because I was thinking of bringing out maybe like who's come in and out of the team. So I suppose we could do that. That's gonna take a while. So I think let's just maybe.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to do a bit of the URC preview, which will be out tomorrow. So then I'm going to be going through some of the ins and outs.
Great.
The Lions is pretty easy with regards to ins and outs. There's not been a lot of them, which is a good thing, really, in terms of there not being a lot of outs. Makes a nice difference as a Lions fan and stuff like that. You have, however, posted one of our props. You have replaced Stephen Kitsoff with Steve Sartorius. So
well,
play this weekend.
Well, he was my favorite youngster. I hope he goes well for you guys. Actually, to be honest, I really like him as a player.
Yeah. So you got Caden alone, obviously. So
yeah,
I'm keen for them because I think you've got Johnny Lombard, Kay Volta, and you've got Jordan Hendrickson. So you've got 3 flower halves, all very young. Well, Johnny a bit older than the others.
Wait, I thought Jordan was going to Sharks. Did I miss?
No. Everyone's basically assumed it because he signed a Rock Nation contract, but he's actually.
Okay. Well, then you're back in the game because he was growing. He could grow into the Lions legend. That guy. He was always good for you guys. Yes, he can kick a ball, eh? No, he can kick it. He can kick it. He can go to the parking lot and he can kick it over the stadium into the parking lot on the other side.
And that guy loves tackling. Like
yeah.
No, so I'm very excited. He's back, so I'm keen to see what he's about. Henk van Beek is back.
He's a beast there.
This weekend, so very keen to see how he goes. You guys are obviously missing half your side, really. Stephen Kitsoff's moved on, but Frans Verhoeven not there, Dion Ferree not there.
No,
David Willemse, Murray Liebach not there.
No, I'm gonna. This is gonna be hard to. I've been hiding this from the group, from our chat, and I think you guys are gonna win.
At altitude.
Huh?
No, it's at altitude. There's no form to speak of, for example.
No, so I think this is if you're going to win, it will be this, and I think, we were saying the difference with the Lions and is the derbies, right? You guys don't often win the derbies, so where's after?
Where's the Lions? I'm very confused as to what's going on.
Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Winning the local derbies is where you guys you'll beat like a Leinster or whatever in Ellis Park, but then you got to put like the other teams away. It's just the consistency.
We started off quite well last year. I actually went on a very good tour. Got a couple of early wins. I actually remember, I think it was last season where we actually, I think it was you guys. We actually hammered at Ellis Park. We put you guys away quite easily, and then we kind of just sort of tailed off towards the end. So the issue with the Lions is that it's the kind of standard. 23 players are top class. We've got a really good starting 15 and a decent bench. It's as the season goes by and as the injuries creep in that obviously we just don't have the depth. But I'll tell you what, somebody to watch out for. Somebody even mentioned on Twitter the other day, a hard-hitting number 6 with a good skill set, decent over the ball, and good ruck. Emmanuel Chituka, I think, is going to have a very big season coming up.
He
stepped up last season.
He stepped up for his brother because Vincent was amazing for you, but he has been stepping up there.
Yeah, so my players to watch the Lions are watch Emmanuel, watch Jordan, and watch Henko. I think those 3 are going to be I enjoy watching the Lions, even like back in the day when you had John Mitchell and when you guys had that really good side. And then also I also love the Lions Stormers game. It's generally a throw around. It's a fun game to watch. I think you guys take it. Then we'll take the Scarlets next week at the Darnie Craven. So we'll give you a little bit of a nudge head start. You push into there. But just quickly, what are your predictions? I did this actually last 2 years, trying to predict. I think I don't know what did I predict this. Well, I thought the Bulls. Bulls an overall end of season type prediction.
Yes. Okay. Where do you think our boys are going to finish the season?
All right, so I think. So my big call is I reckon Bulls could be the top SA side.
Oh, yeah. See, that's what I made that mistake 2 years in a row. Well, not a mistake.
So I think it goes one of two ways. I think they either have a very good season, and I think they could be back in inverted commas, or I think that there are structural problems there, which whether it's management or whether there's something wrong that needs to be addressed and needs to be almost a bit of an overhaul. So I think it could go very well for them. I think it could go very badly for them. But they've signed so well. You know, they've brought in.
But they've been signing for the last 3 years. And
yeah, but
Bulls,
I thought that
Bulls are the team that used to bring the youngsters through. They've changed their whole kind of a philosophy in a way.
Yeah, so I think because Jake White was very much talking about. He said, he wants to bring the average age of the players up. But I think also if you look at the signings they've made. I mean, at one stage, you remember when they were just signing absolutely any loose forward going, and they had this pile up of loose forwards, and they didn't have they didn't have a tight end. They lost Trevor and Yukani, and they just didn't really replace him. They brought in Wilco Lowe, so they brought in Akafanamerva at hooker. So your hookers now Akafanamerva, Johan and Jan Krobelaar.
Yeah, those are good acquisitions. Those are good.
In the back line, I thought the centers were a bit lacking, and they brought in Jakob van der Walt.
I agree. And I like Constant Hendricks, but
Henry Immelman now, and it sounds like Canan Moody, based on what he said in the World Cup, it sounds like he's going to be running at 13 this season for the Bulls. So I think that's
a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a point. But do you think Jake White though still the right man?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think it's a big season for him because you can't argue the Jake White credentials, can you? He's had the success, but he is someone that doesn't.
Yeah, but you could say that about Eddie Jones. But you could say that about Eddie Jones as well, right?
Yeah. No, but Jake White's an interesting conundrum because often he does sometimes I wouldn't say overstays his welcome, but sometimes the longer he goes there, sometimes things start to fall apart. They backed him long term. What do you think about the Sharks? Do you think that they're finally going to get their where's the bag?
I'm really intrigued what Wes is up to. Did you get something to eat? Are you all right?
No, sorry, my sugars were crashing actually, but
sorry, yeah, good. Peace. Thank God. Yeah, glad you're still with us. Then, great, man. because you turned. I actually, for moments, I was worried because you turned around and I didn't know if it was thank God you're right, man.
He was we turned around. He almost had a nervous grin on his face, and then the feed cut. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
We need to.
I was hoping the feed wasn't going to cut because I was really intrigued to see where that was going. But anyway, yeah. But do you think it's a now or never season for Jake and the Bulls if he doesn't win this season?
Yeah, I
think have patience run out.
Yeah, I think if they don't, if they get to a final, for example, then I think he might stay on. I don't think he'll stay on longer the season anyway. I mean, I think he's been there 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I know he's got this long-term project, long contract. I don't see him staying around much longer, to be honest. I mean, what's he got ready to prove? I think if he wants another challenge, I think he'll move. I wouldn't be surprised if he just sort of steps down altogether. Well, the only thing I would say about the Bulls is that they don't seem to really have much of a succession plan lined up. You don't really sort of nobody really immediately comes to mind unless they go overseas and they bring back a Vergaan back or something like that.
Yeah. And realistically, where do you see the Lions? They're going to crack the knockouts this year, surely.
We weren't far away last year, which was the annoying thing. We were about 2 wins away, and there were games we really threw away, which we should have won. And so, I feel like playoffs were achievable last year. It was the goal. When I spoke to you about Van Rooyen at the URC launch last year.
I like him. He's good.
Yeah, so and he was very honest. He said that they wanted that playoff. They wanted that home playoff. They wanted the home playoff to begin with, because I think what I like about him, I think he's quite realistic. He spoke about the fact that they really wanted a home playoff, which is a big call to try and get fourth. But I think they understand that their chance of ever doing something in this competition hinges on them having that Ellis Park.
Yeah. But in saying that, because let's face it, our top 3 sides, right? Stormers, Bulls, and Sharks, are going to probably be up.
Well, I think the Sharks.
That face, exactly.
I can't. Well, do you know what it is? Do you know what this weekend for me is about?
Yeah,
it's Janti time.
Oh, I love Deante. I'm a bigger Deante fanboy as you are, bro. Honestly, I love that.
That has passed under the radar this weekend. That Piwe Deante could make his return this weekend after 4 years.
Yeah. But just going back to the Lions' chances of a top 8, because are Zebra going to win a game? Are we going to see some improvement from the Welsh sides? Because if those guys start getting better and playing out, because those sides still got to get up to our physicality, right? That's what they're still missing.
Well, the Welsh team's in trouble because they've all left. They've all had a walkout basically. Obviously, they had all those issues last season where they couldn't contract players, they couldn't offer players contracts and stuff like that. And as a result, you go look at the exodus of Welsh players. They've all left basically. Your Will Rowlands, your Liam Williams, they've all packed up. Edwin Jones is retired. Josh Levidi's retired. There's so many players who have left the Welsh region. I think they'll bounce back. I think they've got a really nice. They've actually got some really nice young players. You look like a Jack Morgan for me to be British Irish Lions captain. I think he's phenomenal. But I think that they're going to need a year or two to adjust. So I don't expect a lot from the Welsh regions. I don't expect much from Zebra. So that's already 5 teams.
Yeah, well, it's really. I mean, it's like I said, it's the 3 Irish teams, 3 South African teams, and the 2 Scottish teams. That's been the top 8.
It's kind of an Edinburgh there in about because I think they came up 4. Yeah. So it's kind of like that Benetton Lions, Glasgow Warriors, who are probably my second team in the URC. It's kind of them.
Lions beating the Stormers to start as a starting point, and they're 1 or 2 derby wins away from making it. And where the Stormers? The Stormers making the final again this year, my man. Are they winning it again? Second title.
Yeah, why not? I think. Who
is your South African team with? I don't think I've ever actually picked that up.
The Lions, surely.
I mean, it was the Lions for.
What do you mean it was? There's no it was. It is.
and then I was very fickle. I think sort of towards the end of high school, and sort of then switched over to Stormers side of things for no real other than being a teenage boy, and
greatest
then
union in the world.
Yeah, it's kind of just beat in the wind, to be honest. So, I think at this point you flip a coin, really. No, but I think good old Manu Lebok, I think he would have gained massive confidence and whatnot coming out of this tournament, obviously, and with his time with the BOKS. So if he can get back into a Stormers jersey and continue, to take as the form. I'm really keen to actually get back into it a bit more. And start watching a bit more domestic rugby. So no, I can't say anything for now. So take none of what I'm saying with any sort of weight. I know you guys don't anyway, so that's fine.
He's gone again.
And he's gone.
And he's back again. And he's back. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'm actually interested to get your guys' comments. Gallant. I love Gallant. And I was convinced he was a starting block before video.
I thought he was the Billy replacement. The way he played, I was like, we got it. We're going to be fine. But he's going to move on. Yeah. This is our next playmaking fullback. Did you see his try assist in the warm-up game?
That guy's magic, bro. He's the most unlucky. He's the most unluckiest player. I love watching that guy play. It's just not fair. It's not fair that he hasn't had a international career. But anyway, he's back at my team now, and.
Damien Willemse back at 12 in.
But when he was in the Stormers, the Bok, Willemse, those 2, Zas, when the Stormers are full strength and running, bro. Oh man, that's why we have people that come to watch, bro. Yeah, it's good, It's good, And we lift the trophy. It's lovely weather, beautiful girls. See, what more can you dream of?
Chris, are you moving back to Cape Town?
In the UK? Don't.
Yeah. I'll be back for 2 months over December. Stevie, you guys just get down to Cape Town. Let's go. My friends got a box. We'll go. Yeah, it'll be good.
Let's go. Let's just check the calendar. There must be a Lions Stormers game in and around things. There's a lot of local derbies in that period.
Yeah. All right. Good luck, Lions. Don't cry if you lose again. It's all right. But it's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a nice warm up to the BOK game, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's 2 games: Lions game into the Sharks game into the BOK game.
Oh, there we go. Sharks are playing again. Munster. That's a cracker game as well.
Munster and then Bull Scarlets on Sunday.
That Sharks Munster game in the end of the URC last season was a beaut. Was a draw, I think. In the end.
Yeah, I think that was the one that was wet, wasn't it?
And that's the one that Khaleesi got injured, no?
Could have been.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I shouldn't have been being a very wet day, but a lot of rugby, and then obviously tomorrow night's going to be massive. What do we predict? Argentina all the way.
Yes, actually I did, because we were getting some bad mouths that we're too conservative and not bringing in the fans. So I said I'll shout Argentina just for a little controversy, even though I totally don't believe it.
Come on, the Argies.
Yeah. No, well, look, I hope they go Saint to West. My initial gut is it's going to be blowout wins. I think that the golf is just too big, but the weather's going to be a neutralizer, and I don't want it to be blowout. So I do hope Argies give New Zealand a game. Our game, I don't know. It could be 20 points. It could be us by 3. It could be England by 2.
Yeah.
Like literally. Look,
so. I don't know what the weather was like today. I think it was supposed to be wet again today. Yesterday was absolutely pouring. And cold as well, so very different this weekend to what we've had for the rest of the World Cup. Which ironically, for the first time, who would have thought is not going to suit the BOKS, necessarily.
Yeah.
I think
I'm not happy that it's raining. I want same again. I want LeBook throwing he's doing his magic to the guys outside in. I don't want City Bugger, Wets, and Farrell kicking 6 points there. I want the BOKS to come out there and put that Faz boy away. But England if they come out like they did against the semi against New Zealand, we are in for a long day. If they can bring that. I don't know if they can, but then we didn't say New Zealand were possibly going to bring it, even though they had it in them. I just haven't seen anything to suggest that England can even go to that level. That's just why I'm feeling okay-ish that we'll get through.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
We know Reeza's drinking on a school night because he's saying Argentina by 5. He's also saying Lions.
Oh, you see.
I can guarantee you right now he's got a brandy in hand.
Yeah, no, definitely. If Chelsea allow. But
if the wife allows for the brandy. Right, gentlemen, speaking of that, I am going to head out.
Monster show, boys. Well done, man. Well done.
We've been going for over 2 hours, yes. So thank you to everybody who's been sticking by us. It's been a long one, but a very cool one.
Yeah. All right, boys. Big weekend ahead. Enjoy. Have fun. We'll see you in and around.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, chaps. We'll see you guys soon.
There's everyone. Bye.